Time for my other objective intel gathering. I thought we needed to go into some depth today, so I took a few of Caligulio's staffers familiar with Imperial matters, and asked them to join me in one of our conference halls. I wanted to hold a meeting with them and the members of my cabinet who were still awake, so we could talk about what we do with the Empire next. At this point, the Empire was presumably still unaware that Caligulio's force was defeated. Yuki might have received reports from Misha and Lapis, but worrying about leaks from them seemed unwarranted to me. Besides, we were already aware of the Empire's current maneuvers. I told Luminous about the 300 airships traveling over the sea toward them. She'd replied. Watch me turn the tables on them all. I doubted Luminous herself would take action, but we had a treaty, and she promised to guard against the Imperial forces coming from the north. The Holy Empire of Lobilius, as the world's religious headquarters, churns out a ton of paladins, and apparently they had their own standing force as well. Between that and the hidden threat that was the vampires, I felt fine leaving things in their hands. If Luminous got in any danger, the 150,000-strong Western deployment could step up, too. Tensura had them standing by, ready to respond at a moment's notice. Most of all, though, Hinata was part of the team intercepting the airships. They were truly prepared for anything, but we still can't let our guard down. I looked at my assembled group and announced the start of the meeting. The following 17 people were seated in the hall. My secretaries, Xian and Diablo. Benimaru, my Supreme General, and Rigard and Cajun, my assistants in political affairs. Gabul and Gopta, my 2 core leaders. Takuro, my advisor. Zoe, my intelligence officer. And Ghidorah, too, as a material witness of sorts. The 3 demonesses Tensura, Ultima, and Carrere. On the Imperial side, there were Caligulio himself, Minus, and Bernie and Jiwu. Including myself, we had 18 people in here. We started with introductions, and of course, the Imperials were utterly stunned when they found out the 3 demonesses were all primals. Man, were those stares painful to endure. Sorry, guys. It's Diablo's fault, not mine. I could already anticipate the complaints coming my way, so I decided to pretend nothing happened and get down to business. So if there's stuff you can't share with me, that's cool, okay. Just tell me whatever you can. With that, I used Argus, the Eye of God, to put up a display showing the airship squadron in flight. Caligulio would be explaining the current state of the Empire to us, as we agreed upon beforehand. The Imperials looked pretty upset about the video on the large surveillance screen, but Caligulio kept his composure and promptly began his briefing. I already knew a bit about the situation over there from Ghidorah. That old man didn't seem to care at all about betraying the Empire, but Caligulio was a soldier. There might be some things he can't talk about, and we'll just have to follow up on that later. I told him what I knew in advance, so I'd be having him provide his briefing based on that. Very well. In that case, I will begin. He was even more brisk and businesslike than I anticipated. The armored division that Caligulio led had a department called the Flying Combat Corps, which boasted 400 state-of-the-art airships. 300 of them were flying to northern Inglesia, carrying full troop loads. Each one could carry up to 400 people, and a crew of 50 was enough to fly one, so that meant a maximum of 350 passengers. All this was just as Ghidorah explained to me. These ships were transporting the Magical Beast division led by one General Gradam, a force of 30,000 in all. However, it was actually more like 60,000, since each division member was partnered with a Magical Beast of their own. They were also joined by support personnel providing logistical services. They had a Major General named Amdo commanding them, but they were probably non-combatants who shouldn't be counted in military numbers. It is a tad embarrassing to talk about this here, but most of the troops sent to Inglesia are still novices. They can operate an airship just fine, but in an actual combat situation, their performance is likely going to suffer. Normally they would be conducting R&D for us, so I hope you can show them some mercy. As Caligulio explained, the Empire had deployed all its warpower to Tempest, so he gave his rival Gradam nothing but non-combatant personnel. The support staff numbered around 30,000 in all, but there were hardly wizards or the like. Most were sorcerers, a level below. Beyond that, the rest were airship operators and maintenance techs, and Caligulio asked me to take them prisoner instead of killing them, if possible. Of all the brazen things to say. You invaded another country, and now that it looks like you'll lose, you want us to save them without killing anyone. Xian was enraged over this. It made Caligulio turn pale as he apologized. I tried to quiet her down a bit, but really, I thought she was right. Caligulio understood that well enough, too, which explained why he was so apologetic about it. But, well, what happens over there isn't in our jurisdiction. Depending on how things go, I might have to disappoint you there. Yes, I understand that, of course. Please do as you wish, Lord Rimuru. I'll consider his request if I think it's possible, but I can't make any promises. My resurrection magic isn't a cure-all, sometimes it doesn't work if the conditions aren't right. And depending on how Luminous reacts to this, I may not be in any position to intervene anyway. I had heard that Gradam's magical beast division is a pretty considerable threat, and there's no guarantee that they won't deal serious damage to Hinata and her troops. If that happens, there won't be any time for mercy. We've got a ton of defensive capability, so I don't think we'd ever be defeated, but there are never any absolutes in war, so I can't make guarantees like that lightly. So that was the end of that. Now we had to talk about Worgen's eastern city. I switched the Eye of God over to a shot of an army some 60,000 strong. They were deployed and looking pretty relaxed, no tension in the air whatsoever. The Imperial officers were shocked all over again, but I pressed on with my briefing. At present, Yuki and I have somewhat reluctantly joined together in an alliance. This might look like a tense standoff, but it's actually just kind of a big performance. Minute snorted at this. Well, look at that. If part of our army was compromised from the start, we had practically no chance of winning, did we? Caligulio nodded. Yeah. And the moment my armored division and Gradam's magical beast division are wiped out, they'll turn their claws toward the Imperial capital, and then, checkmate, eh? They exchanged embittered looks. Now they knew they were defeated both in strength and in strategy. But not everyone was on the same page. I don't think so. The Emperor still has people in the capital who'll protect him. I know I've said this many times before, but an awakened soldier is a literal one-man army. I'm sure they would have foreseen the possibility that Yuki would rebel against them. It was kind of weird hearing Bernie talk like this. My image of him as Masayuki's long-suffering flunky was still too strong in my mind. This seemed like someone totally different. Is this the real you I'm seeing here, Bernie? Ah. No, the real me is more how I was when I was traveling with Masayuki. I asked a question on reflex, but Bernie was honest enough to provide an answer. So his current attitude is him in military mode, but he's usually a lot more informal, huh? He also informed me that he's originally from the United States and is 45 years old. He was originally an average student like any other, so the Bernie I saw before me was all the result of his education in this world. That much probably doesn't matter to anyone besides himself, although it did make me feel a little affinity for him. But you're probably right. I heard that there's someone at the Empire who could potentially kill me. And it's totally expected that a cornered mouse can find a way to turn the tables on the cat. The quality over quantity dynamic in this world was tough to wrap your head around. No matter how big an army you assembled, they could still be defeated by one single person if they're unlucky. That's how we won, too, so we needed to consider being in the opposite position as well. In that case, why don't I travel over there and show this someone a thing or two? Xian's hand was already on her giant sword. We had zero guarantee that she could win, so I had to turn down that request. Kahahaha. In that case, allow me to. Denied. I don't even want to imagine a scenario where Diablo lost, but still, no. My policy here is to wait and see until we can create a situation where we're totally sure we can win. That much, as I reminded everyone in the room, I wanted to be thorough with. Intelligence is really the most important thing, though, isn't it? I can't even count the number of failures we've had because of lack of information. We gotta keep our ears open right now, so we don't fall into the same trap again. So you guys were sticking with Masayuki because it let you get close to me without attracting suspicion, right? Honestly, I had no idea at all. And the timing of that attack was incredibly dangerous for me. I was talking to Bernie and Juwu. They might have been acting on Damrata's orders, but it really was a perfect strategy, one not even Raphael picked up on. I had to applaud them for that, enemy or not. I'm sure they had opportunities to target me before then, but it couldn't have been easy for them to keep their maximum fighting skills under wraps until that one critical moment. We had the upper hand this time, maybe, but things could have easily gone the other way, and the Emperor would have gotten exactly what he wanted. Tempest without Benimaru and me would fall into total disarray, and the Empire would have instantly overrun it. My pride got the best of me there. I was laboring under the assumption that the labyrinth is always safe. I need to remember that, during war, there is always another danger to consider. Me as well. I will be sure to more thoroughly vet anyone who gets close to Sir Rimuru. Benimaru and Zoe must have been hung up about that, but I can't pin this on them alone. They had always been way more vigilant than I ever was, anticipating every potential eventuality. I just didn't have my ears up for danger at all, and that was something I needed to improve on. Sir Damrata was the one who ordered us to protect Masayuki. He never told me what for, and I don't think that order could have leaked out anywhere. Me neither. We didn't receive our orders at the same time. It was through different channels, so we wouldn't know each other's real identities. I didn't know Bernie was a single digit until the assassination order came for you, Lord Rimuru.